been approved effective to this day, Republic Act No. 9262, an act defining violence against women and their children, providing for protective measures for victims, prescribing penalties therefore and for other purposes. This act shall be known as the Anti-Violence Against Women and Their Children Act of 2004. It is hereby declared that the state values the dignity of women and children and guarantees full respect for human rights. The state also recognizes and protects the family and its members, particularly the women and the children, for violence and threats to their personal safety and security. Now let us move on for the definition of terms for this act.
As defined by RA 9262 or the Anti-Violence Against Women and Their Children Law, violence against women and their children refers to any act or a series of acts committed by any person against a woman who is his wife, former wife, or against a woman with whom the person has or had a sexual or dating relationship or with whom he has a common child, or against her child, whether legitimate or illegitimate, within or without the family abode, which result in or is likely to result in physical, sexual, psychological harm or suffering, or economic abuse, including the threats of such acts battery, like the act of inflicting physical harm upon the woman or her child, resulting to the physical and psychological or emotional distress, assault, coercion, harassment, or arbitrary deprivation of liberty. Children, meanwhile, refers to those below 18 years of age or older, but are incapable of taking care of themselves, as defined under Republic Act No. 7610, including biological children of the victim and other children under her care. This is Kate Semelia reporting.
So what are the acts of violence towards women and children? First is physical violence, which is any act that causes bodily or physical harm. Second is sexual violence, which is any sexual act done towards or involving the woman or child. For example, but not limited to, rape, lasciviousness, sexual harassment, attack, and demeaning remarks. Having the woman or child watch obscene publications or film them doing indecent acts by force, threat, harm, or coercion. Forcing the wife and the mistress or lover to live in the same home as the abuser, causing or attempting the woman or child to engage in any sexual activity by threat, force, harm, or coercion, and lastly, prostituting the woman or the child.
Other forms of violence and abuse covered by VAUSI law include psychological violence and economic abuse. Psychological violence refers to acts causing mental or emotional suffering to the victim, such as, but not limited to, intimidation, harassment, stalking, damage to property, humiliation, verbal abuse, and marital infidelity. Moreover, economic abuse refers to acts that make a woman financially dependent due to unfortunate circumstances, withdrawal of financial support, deprivation of financial resources and the right to use, destruction of household properties, and controlling the victim's own money and properties.
Now, let's talk about Section 6 under Republic Act of 9262, Anti-Violence Against Women and Their Children Act of 2004. Section 6 talks about penalties. If acts are committed while the woman or child is pregnant or committed with the presence of her child, the penalty to be applied is the maximum period of penalty prescribed in this section. In addition to imprisonment, the perpetrator shall A. Pay a fine amount of not less than 100,000 pesos but not more than 300,000 pesos. And letter B. Shall undergo psychological counseling or psychiatric treatment and shall report for the compliance of the court. And now, for the acts falling under Section 5, letter A, shall be punished in accordance with the provisions of Revised Penal Code. And for the acts falling under Section 5, letter B, shall be punished by imprisonment of 2 degrees lower than the prescribed penalty for the consummation crime. and acts falling under Section 5, letters C and D, shall be punished by arrest or mayor. And for the acts falling under Section 5, letter E, shall be punished by prison correctional. And for the acts falling under Section 5, letter F, shall be punished by arrest or mayor. And the acts falling under Section 5, letter G, H, and letter I, shall be punished by prison mayor.
So we are now in the Section 8 of this Act. So the Section 8 of this Act is all about protection orders. A protection order is an order issued under this Act for the purpose of preventing further violence against a woman or her child specified in the Section 5 of this Act and granting other necessary relief. The relief granted under a protection order will serve the purpose of safeguarding the victim from further harm, minimizing any disruption of the victim's daily life, and facilitating the opportunity and ability of the victim to independently regain control over her life.